Hello guys and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be talking to you about my 2023 reading stats. I just love videos like this. I'm going to be using Storygraph to share my stats because that's where it's at in terms of just like, making stats visually appealing. I absolutely love Storygraph because I feel like it obviously has just taken like the original concept of like Goodreads and actually made it better. I feel like maybe had Amazon not bought Goodreads, maybe they would have like put more money into it as in the original people of Goodreads. I don't know, it was still kind of shit then. But Storygraph has given the book lovers what they want, the book lovers who want the stats, it has given them what they want. And I'm so here for it because there was no way I'd be out here making my own graphs, absolutely not. But yes, I really adore Storygraph. It is black owned, woman owned. I think like her co-partner is a man, but and I always keep meaning to buy the Plus membership. At the moment I'm moving, so I broke. But I will do that at some point just to support. But I'm so here for it. I was going to screen record like my screen, obviously that's what screen record means. But I don't really think there's a need for it. I'm just going to stick the stats either here or here. I hope the framing of this is okay. I'm actually just looking at it now. I'm going to tilt it very, very slightly. There we go. So, yeah, so if you haven't seen already, I have done a Best Books of 2023, and that was actually just for the last 6 months of 2023. So I will link that video up here and in the description box down below. But then I also did halfway through the year a Best Books of like 2023 so far, which included many, many books as well. So 2023 was a wonderful reading year. Now, some of the Storygraph stats are not for me because some of them are just like, this tells me absolutely nothing. So you'll see here that we have the mood section, and this is just like user generated. So anyone can go in when you're like reading a book and you can add in the moods. They have a set number that you can tick, select number of options, and this is what people do. This personally for me means nothing to me in the sense that even if it was kind of like determined by the algorithm, it wouldn't mean anything to me. But as you can see, my top sort of moods, I suppose, is reflective. I don't even really know what that means. Obviously I know what the word reflective means, but I'm just like, it would just differ across so many books. I'm just like, what does that mean here? And then you've got emotional, which emotional probably adds up, but I just feel like emotional is so, again, like subjective kind of. Some things I read and I'm like, this doesn't make me emotional. Mysterious, that's probably a lot of mystery novels. We've got dark, yeah, okay, I suppose. Adventurous, that one I'm just like, what does that mean? And then we've got challenging, just so many other little ones. So this is one that I don't really pay attention to. I think, can you move how they show up on here? Because if I can, I'd probably move that to the bottom. Then we've got pace, so you can see here we've got slow, medium, fast. Again, something that I don't use, I'm not interested in because I don't really know what this tells me. Obviously the pacing of a book, I'm aware of the concept of that. But again, I feel like because this is again user generated, it is just people rating like how they found the pacing of a book, and how I find the pacing of a book might be different to how someone else finds the pacing of the book. And obviously it would just be the highest selection that they then assign the book to. So again, I personally don't think it helps me if it was a kind of snap that I was interested in, so I ignore this one. Page number, I love to see this one because, I don't know, I always want to read like larger books, and I know I never really end up doing that. But it is always nice to see like what kind of books I'm naturally gravitating towards. And I think it's actually very interesting that for me the majority is under 300 because I think that just shows like the kind of length of books that are usually published, and that's kind of the case here. And then you've got 300 to 499, 29 books, and then 500 I believe. I'll click into this, but I'm clicking into it on my laptop here. Yeah, it is the Magpie Murder series because those were very long books, both over 500 pages. And then The Myth of Normal. The Myth of Normal, she wrote a long book, So yeah, but it's so funny because those two books that I read, the Magpie Murders, I'm just like, I want more long books like this. I want more books that are kind of like gripping and just kind of weave you into the story. I need more of it. So the next stat we have here is audiobook length. So this is 9 books under 8 hours and then we've got one book that was over 8 hours long basically, and that is The Dinner Guest. I don't recall feeling like that book was very long. Like I remember looking at it and seeing that it was longer than 8 hours, thinking, oh okay, but when I think back to the listening experience, I'm not like, oh my god, that was super long, but I believe it was like 16 hours long or something like that. And then you've got the rest, which are all under 8 hours, which I think the majority of this will be like Agatha Christie books. And that's just kind of where I guess I draw the line. That's just where like the majority of the audiobooks I've listened to fell under, obviously. Again, it's a style I look at occasionally, but as you can see, I only listened to 10 audiobooks last year, so there's not much to say here. But our fiction non-fiction is so interesting to me. There was a time on this channel, I'm sure, that like my reading was half non-fiction, half fiction. I could be lying, I could be making it up, but it was at least a very much like closer figure to each other. And bear in mind that this non-fiction is also made up of poetry, which I have always counted out a little bit separately. So perhaps when I've been doing my stats, that's where it will also be different. But yeah, so actually no, yeah, it will be different, but not in the way I'm thinking. But so non-fiction is 26%. Actual non-fiction books I think was like 9. And this is, you know, showing a value of 23. So I feel like I should have screen recorded this actually, because you can see more. Because if I screenshot it, it's not going to show you the numbers. Anyway, that's a problem for later, Sandra. So yeah, but I was just in my fiction bag. I was borrowing so many books from the library because I think, and this is like mainly to do with like the way you spend and the way you kind of like, I don't know, view certain things, right? So before, when I was like buying my books, I really agonise over, you know, which one to buy and things like that. Whereas having access to my library, and my library don't do like, you don't have to pay for reservations or anything like that. So I'd be reserving the books that I want, taking a gamble on books and things like that. But obviously they're just books that I've seen that I would like to read. And I think being able to do that and not have the kind of like cost attached to it. I mean, even if you could reserve it, even if you had to pay to reserve it, that I would still be doing that because it's less than what I'd pay for the actual book. But not having that cost attached to it, and you know, being like, is this a purchase that I'm gonna love, without knowing, because you don't know the contents of the book, has really allowed me to read a lot of fiction books more easily. There have been some books that I've had to purchase myself because my library doesn't have them, but that has been fine. But I have seen to just gravitate towards fiction books, and it's just been great. I think that's what's made my reading year so fantastic. Not that I don't like my non-fiction reads, but I think last year or the couple of years before, I was reading like non-fiction books that I guess like I'd seen other people talking about but weren't just really my interest. And that's what I talk about in my 2024 reads. Like I feel like those books really kind of from things that I'm already like now interested in real life, and therefore like I feel like I should enjoy those a lot more, but I might not. But I feel like the years before, I really was just reading kind of like, I guess, trend-led books what everyone else was reading, and just thinking, oh, that sounds interesting, but they weren't personally things I was already interested in. So yeah, the non-fiction's bigger. I feel like I want for 2024 for it to be more non-fiction reads, but I think I read a lot of poetry last year. I'll try and like break down that figure. But I feel like one year I had a goal of reading like a poetry collection every month, and I definitely feel I read more than 12 collections last year. So, you know, I don't know, sometimes the goals don't be helping you. So genres I think is an interesting one, because again, I believe this one is again user-led, but I quite like this one. Out of all the other ones, I feel like, you know, when people can assign random things to it, I like this one because it, for me, ends up being a really lovely graph that shows the breadth of the books that I'm reading. So high up there is mystery, and that will just be good old Agatha Christie, and then obviously the Magpie Murders, and also Carola Dunn. I started reading some of those books at the beginning of the year, so I think a lot of that is made up of that, and then there'll be other books where mystery obviously plays a part. Then you've got literary. I haven't backfilled my Goodreads, but I'd be so keen to find out like how high literary is, because I'm sure in previous years this would have been the one that came out on top. Mystery is something that kind of like has come about in like the past like 4 years for myself personally, I would say. Then you've got poetry, you've got 18 there. So that's probably how many poetry collections I read last year. And again, that's due to, like, not really due to my library, it's actually due to the Scottish Poetry Library, where I think, at least if you're in Scotland, I don't know about if you're in England or Wales or Ireland, but probably not in Ireland, to be honest. Every time it comes to postage there, people are like, what was I saying? Yeah, you can borrow poetry collections for free, so I've been doing that as well. So then you can just see the rest of the other genres here, and for me it's just always a really nice thing to see. We've got things like education. I don't know what would be underneath there. Magical realism, because I looked at this kind of before, magical realism, even though I looked at it before, I can't remember what education was, but magical realism is Death Valley by Melissa Broder, which very much is magical realism, but I would have been like, I haven't read anything that's magical realism. You've got essays, you've got health. What is health actually? Oh, When the Body Says No. Okay, cool. So yeah, I just really like to listen. What's under politics? Oh, okay. Because I'm not screaming who don't know this, but show Under Politics is The Rose and You True Witches by Mary Westmacott, aka Agatha Christie, and then Deaf Republic, which is a poetry collection. But yeah, okay. I can see how those are secondary categories for those books. So now we look into format, and under format you can see the majority print is king. That's just where we're at. Especially because a lot of the books I borrowed were from my library. My library does have a audiobook and digital book selection, but I feel like when I went to do the kind of digital book thing, it was like you had to like download the app on your phone. I don't be reading books on my phone. And audio. I don't know why I've not done audio, because I would listen to audio on my phone, but I've not done that. I should look into that. That's a reminder to self. So yeah, majority print, 79 books print, 7 digital, and then 10 audio. The 7 digital will be made up of NetGalley and then a couple of books that I have purchased myself. Audio will be from Scribd. I really need to be listening to at least one book a month to like just make good use of my subscription. So I'll be doing that. And if you are interested in getting like 2 months free from Scribd, you can read ebooks on there, you can listen to audiobooks. I think you can actually listen to some podcasts as well. I have a link in my description for 2 months off, so you can take advantage of that. And then we come into most read authors, which is Brian K. Vaughan at the top. I hope I'm saying that right. And this is simply because this was the year that I was like, oh my god, my library has the rest of the Saga series, I need to read all of it, and that's what I did. And then we've got Agatha Christie, of course. Then you've got Carola Dunn, you've got Mary Oliver. Mary Oliver is a poet, and she is someone that I see put on Instagram all the time. And I was like, oh my god, I really like her poems, let me read her collection. Again, something I borrowed from the Scottish Poetry Library. And I feel like, whilst I really enjoyed her poems, I've seen the best ones on Instagram. Like, there's a reason why they're the most shared ones, but still, it was so nice to like read her work and just see more of the variety of her work. And I actually read a really good, it's like a reference book, I guess, a poetry reference book from her this year, like in January, which is like the Poetry Handbook, and it is about like putting poems together. It's absolutely gorgeous. I need to buy a copy for myself because I really enjoyed it. And then you've got some other authors. So you've got Mary, it's actually part of a trilogy, and it would have been 3 had I got the book from the library, but it's still not come through. This Sue Grafton is the kind of alphabet murder series I did not decide not to continue. Richard Osman, The Thursday Murder Club. Gabor Mate, I read 2 of his books, obviously. Anthony Horowitz, The Magpie Murders. And then Kia Abdullah actually. Again, she has 2 books out that are kind of in, from like this kind of like lawyer series. So you've got languages. All my books are read in English. You go only knows English, okay? I am actually learning Spanish, but it'll be a long way time off before I keep reading it. So here we've got the number of books, pages, and minutes. So yeah, okay. So I was really confused here for a second. I am very worried that my battery is going to run out and I don't have the charging facilities for it right now, so this will be interesting. So number of books, pages, and hours and minutes. I love how this graph is presented. I really, really like it, just because you're so easily able to just see everything at a glance. So books read, you can see the highest number of books read was in May, and this, I'll tell you now, is just Saga, and the lowest was in July, which is 5. But then if you look at something like the pages read, the most amount of pages read was in August, but I read 7 books. And that's simply because that's the month I read The Magpie Murders, and those books came in at 1,000 pages, yeah, when you combine them, right? Minimum. So that's so nice to see, and then you can see the kind of audiobook figure as well. And ideally I would have liked this to be an audiobook every month, but this is 6 months? Yeah, 4 months not reading audiobooks. Am I getting that right? 4 months of not listening to an audiobook. It's not the worst figure in the world. So I really like just this graph, the presentation of it overall. It's just so nice to see. And I'm not actually someone who tracks the number of pages read. It's not a stat that I'm interested in, but it's kind of nice to see in reference to the books how these things correlate, or don't correlate really, in some cases. So then the final figure is the star rating, and as you can see, this is why I say 2022 was a great year. I gave most books 4 stars. I love that for me. But you can see that I did read 96 books, but I rated 95 books, and that's because one of the books I read was from like my work. I work at a publisher's, and I just didn't feel like, I don't ever rate the books that I read that are from work. So that's why. So we've got our average rating is 3.8 stars, which isn't like the best average rating, to be honest, but it's been worse. I think it was like 2.75 the year before. But you can see just that final sort of, that last segment of once it goes to 3 to 5, that's where a lot of my rating goes, and that's why I'm so happy with like my 2023, because I feel like I've enjoyed so many of the books that I've read, and that's the figure that I wanted to see. I don't mind giving books like 3 stars if they're okay, but I wanted them to be okay and then some and then more, and you can see that there was just very much less in this area, and I'm happy to see that. What's the ones I can't even be bothered to click into what they are, but that is it for my Storygraph stats, my ratings, what my reading year looks like, and yeah, just wanted to share that with you guys. So thank you very much for watching this video. I am excited for what 2024 is going to bring me, and yeah, I hope to see a higher average rating for next year. But let me know if you're on Storygraph. If you are, I have a link in the bottom, so just like add me, and yeah, share any stats of yours that you would like to share with me. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in another video. Bye.